From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2019. An IDF soldier missing in action for 37 years will finally be laid to rest in Israel. Brooklyn-born IDF Sergeant Zachary Baumel's tank was captured by the Syrians in the Battle of Sultan Yaqub on June the 11th of 1982 at the beginning of the First Lebanon War. He and his fellow tank soldiers, Sergeant Yehuda Katz and Sergeant Zvika Feldman, were presumed killed in the battle. Katz and Feldman are still unaccounted for. IDF spokesperson Brigadier General Ronen Manelis said Baumel's body was repatriated to Israel by way of a third country several days ago in an operation referred to as Bittersweet Song. There are reports that the third country might be Russia. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel has worked tirelessly since Baumel's capture to uncover his fate and that of his fellow soldiers, and that efforts would continue until all missing soldiers were brought back to Israel. Mentioning by name Hadar Golden and Oron Shaul, whose remains are being held by terror group Hamas in Gaza, as well as mentioning Air Force navigator Ron Arad, who went missing during an operation over Lebanon in October of 1986, and of legendary Israeli spy Eli Cohen, who was executed in Syria in 1965. Israel's President Reuven Rivlin extended his deepest condolences to the Baumel family, saying that after 37 unbearable years of painful waitings, of questions and doubts, their son had been brought home. Rivlin said, "We will not cease until all our soldiers have returned home. We go to battle together, and together we return from it." A Palestinian man tried to stab Israelis traveling in a car in the West Bank this morning. According to a statement from the Samaria Regional Council, Yehoshua Sherman was driving his teenage daughter to school and was stopped in traffic near the Bitot junction when the terrorist jumped in front of his car and tried to open the door of the vehicle with a knife in his hand. Sherman said he got out of the car with the help of a driver behind him, shot the terrorist, who later died of his injuries. Two former secretaries of the Department of Homeland Security are set to lead a new Community Safety and Security Task Force run by the Anti-Defamation League and the Secure Community Network, which is an initiative of the Jewish Federations of North America and the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. Michael Chertoff and Jay Johnson will lead the task force in efforts to protect faith-based communities. The ADL and SCN joined forces after the Tree of Life shooting attack this past October. Chertoff said protecting our communities and creating cross-faith relationships will both promote the unity within our diverse society and also add critical resources to our security arsenal. Johnson said we need to build partnerships and lift up community capabilities before extremists have the opportunity to become threats. While the president of Brown University is refusing to back a student call to boycott Israel, Christina Paxson said she will not act on an undergraduate student referendum that was passed last month, calling for the university to divest from companies doing business with Israel. She said Brown's endowment is not a political instrument to be used to express views on complex social and political issues. She said Brown should not embrace any of the planks of the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement. Meanwhile, students at Pitzer College want their president to resign after he took a firm stand against BDS. As we reported to you last month, Melvin Oliver rejected a student vote to suspend the school's study abroad program with the University of Haifa. And students now say that if the Student Senate votes a no confidence in Oliver, and if Oliver does not retract his decision to keep the program with the Israeli school by April the 11th, they will call for his immediate resignation or removal from office. If you recall, Oliver had said in his statement against the initial vote that by singling out Israel, the recommendation itself is prejudiced. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, April the 3rd at 7 o'clock. It's from the Aleph Bet. At 7:35, Stanford professor Gabrielle Safran talks about the Jewish way of speaking and its impact on others. That's in a program of YIVO, the American Jewish Historical Society, the Russian American Foundation, and the Genesis Group at the Center for Jewish History. At 8 o'clock, former NBC News correspondent Martin Fletcher discusses his book Promised Land, a novel of Israel, with Scott Richman of the AJC Westchester Fairfield, in a program of the JCC of Midwestchester's Arts and Talks and the Jewish Book Council at the JCC of Midwestchester. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Temple Bethel of Stanford Rabbi Joshua Hammerman, who discusses the Jewish values embodied in the Yiddish word mensch, which he writes about in his new book, Mensch Marks, Life Lessons from a Human Rabbi. At 10, author and New York Times columnist Ron Lieber discusses parenting strategies. And coming up right after this newscast, it's Thinking Out Loud with Micah Halpern. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2019. I'm Teisha Bader.